Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Today we are with Dr. Aaron Gumm, esteemed for his 17-year dedication to chiropractic. He is actually the founder and CEO of Blueprint to Practice Automation. They are supported by a devoted team of 40 members, have been honored with inclusion in the prestigious Incorporated 500 and 5,000 lists for 5 consecutive years, reflecting its significant impact on the chiropractic profession. So with that said, Dr. Gumm, I'll let you take it from here.
All right, Tyler, I appreciate it. I'm really excited about the series that we've put together for you guys and your guys' following over the next 4 months. Today, I'm going to talk about a topic that resonates with any business, and it's profit, right? So we're in business to help people, one, and secondly, we want to have a profit. We start our business, we want to make money, right? So we're going to talk about some topics that are connected to profit. Everything I talk about today is going to be connected to profit, and be mindful of the topics that I'm going to go over. I'm just getting you thinking differently about how you may be running your practice, maybe some opportunities for profit, maybe some hidden profits. But when we start thinking about these things, people think there's a lot of ways to build your practice, and really there's only 4. And those 4 ways is to increase your profit is you get more new patients, right? More new patients is good. Make your patients worth more. So how can we drive what our patients are worth? Because sometimes the number of new patients creates bottlenecks in our practice, glass ceilings in our practice. If we have to get 100 new patients a month, maybe that's not sustainable for a long period of time. And what are those patients worth? And then also we're looking at how do we make our patients worth by decreasing our operational cost? I'm not going to go into a lot of that one today. On April 30th, I'm going to go into that topic a lot from a clinical operating standpoint. And then how we can get our patients to buy multiple times. Are you just selling one care plan and they're leaving your office? Are you just selling 6 visits? How long are your patients there, and how many times are they buying from you? So one of the terms I want to resonate with today is lifetime value, LTV for short. So when I say LTV, that's what I'm talking about. So when we look at our lifetime value of our customer, it's the total worth of a customer to a business over a period of time of their relationship with that brand. So to make that simple, it's how many times does that customer buy over the period of time that they're there in your practice? And do we know the average lifetime value of our patients and our customers? Because this number becomes very, very important when we start talking about marketing, when we talking about opportunity, hidden profit opportunities. So I'm going to be talking about LTV a lot throughout this presentation, this webinar. So, for example, if your chiropractic patient pays you $1,800 for your first initial care plan, and then they re-sign for another $1,800, and then they're on maintenance, let's say at $159 a month for 12 months, and then they leave after about 2 years, and that's the average of what your customers do, then your lifetime value is 24 months at the total price of what they usually buy. So when we start looking at some other terms is, I want you to think about your P&L chart. I know, P&L sounds really, really boring, and it is if you don't do anything with it, right? So when we look at your P&L, usually your P&L is associated with your accountant. He probably does it in the background. You probably never see it. He may send it to you once a month. You glance at it, and you're like, okay, great, and then you move on. When we look at our P&L chart, it actually becomes very exciting when we start making decisions around our P&L chart. So when we look at the categories, we have our sales, we have our marketing, we have our labor, which is our employees, we have our practice costs, which is our hard costs, such as your rent, your TV, your phones, those type of things, and then we have our overhead, which is other costs that are not fixed that you can kind of move around if you need to, and then you have your profit. So 4 things that stick out to me on the P&L chart is your sales, obviously, your marketing, your labor, and your profit, okay? Because when we look at, sometimes when we look at the P&L chart and we're not spending any money on marketing, we should be spending a certain amount of money on marketing. Some practitioners take pride and say, hey, I don't spend any money on marketing. I get all my patients from referrals. That's awesome. But we still have allocated a percentage to spend towards marketing. Now we may look at our sales and say, okay, well, we have $50,000 in collections that month, and our marketing is actually over the normal percentage of what we should be spending. Well, that's a sign of we're not converting enough, or our LTV of our customer isn't high enough if we're looking at profit or sales. So if we're selling a cheaper care plan and we're still spending the same amount on a higher percentage on marketing, and that means we're not converting enough business. We're not charging enough for our patients. We're not creating a better LTV for our patients of what that patient can buy in your practice. And some of the times when we look at labor, if we are over that 15 to 20% and we feel like we're overstaffed, the last thing that you need to do is get rid of people. You need to improve your conversion rate. You need to improve your marketing conversions, and you need to improve your profit. Because if we convert those things better, then we're not going to be overstaffed because we're collecting more money. So usually it's not a people problem, it's a conversion problem. So that goes linked back to that LTV that I'm talking about. If we're not setting our opportunities up in our practice for our patients to go through a process that they're going to buy again, and buy for the next 12 to 24 months, then we're not going to have a lot of opportunity to maximize sales, marketing, and profit, if that makes sense. So some things to start thinking about, because I'm going to bring these things up as I'm going through these topics. So the first thing we want to look at is our case fee evaluation. So case fee evaluation. So we have our patients come in, and maybe we're not selling case fees, maybe we're selling visit to visit, but this is important to start thinking about. The only way we can increase our LTV is to have a case fee. If we're selling visit to visit, that's a great model for referrals, and you have a lot of people referring people in, and you're seeing a lot of patients, but it relies on the number of patients that you have to see in your practice, not the value that you're getting out of that patient or what you're delivering. So what that means is when we look at case fees, it's an opportunity to increase our LTV, increase the value of what we're offering our patients, and then increasing our revenue, which is our sales, and increasing our profit as well. So when we start looking at that, let's start with the chiropractic case fee. The chiropractic case fee is an important part to start with. We're all chiropractors, we're selling chiropractic, and I'll get to some really fun stuff here in a little bit, but with chiropractic, we got to start thinking about, are we getting the value out of the chiropractic case fee that we're selling, or the care that we're selling to our patients? Because a lot of times what we'll have, I've done every single one of these models. I'm not saying any of these models are wrong or which ones are the perfect one. I'm just giving you some perspective on things to think about as we're going through our chiropractic care, what we're offering. So sometimes we'll offer long visit care plans, 60 visits over a year for $1,800. It's $30 a visit. Or we may be the type of chiropractor where we're offering 6 visits to get them out of pain, which is pain reduction care, get them out of pain, and then they come whenever they want, once a month, and we're seeing them probably 12 to 15 times over a year. Or we'll be selling, we'll say 30 visits for $900 at $30 a visit. And just because we want to make sure we close that patient, and we make sure that the price is low enough that our communication style could actually start that patient under care so we don't lose that business. So a lot of times what we're doing is we're structuring our chiropractic care plans around our ability to communicate and deliver a communication process to our patients so they start care so we don't miss out. So I want you to shift your mind a little bit when we start thinking about these things. So we look at the numbers off of just 100 visits a week. Obviously, this is the simple numbers I wanted to use. If we're charging 30, we go to 60, we're doubling our collections. If you go to $80 a visit, we're going to 32,000, we're going to 40,000. So it's all a numbers game, right? So if we charge more per visit, we're making more money. And I know what you're thinking is like, how do I charge $100 a visit, Dr. Gumm, when I'm only charging $30 a visit? Well, it's going to take a mind shift, because what happens is we're selling either a number of visits. Hey, you get a year's care plan with us for $1,800. It's only $1,800, and you get to be here a year. Well, some patients don't even want to be there a year. Or we're looking at it and saying, hey, I'm just going to do pain reduction care, get them out of pain, let them come back at their own pace, so I can make sure I can keep that patient around a long time. You get a lot of referrals that way, but the way we're going to shift the mind of the patient is value-based communication. So instead of doing, let's do a comparison between quantity, number of visits that they get versus the values that they get out of the care plan, and then pain reduction versus the values they get out of the care plan. What do I mean? What do I mean by that is, what are the values that that patient is getting out of their care versus how many visits or how they get out of pain. People will only pay you a certain amount of money to get out of pain, and people will only pay you a certain amount of money for the number of visits that they get. When you start communicating around why they want care, so maybe because someone's coming in with lower back pain and they don't want to have surgery, they want to go back to the gym, their health's deteriorating because they can't go back to the gym. They can't sit down more than 3 hours at work and they have to get up and take multiple breaks. It's affecting their production at work. Their boss is on their butt about it. Every person that walks through your door has a motivating factor that comes in your door that's what they're buying back in their care. The minute that you choose to change your conversation around the value of chiropractic and what they're getting out of their care plan and those layers deep that they want to avoid, that's when you can start charging $100 a visit. But we're not charging $100 a visit in the patient's mind. We're charging them, let's say 36 visits at $100 a visit, $3,600. We're charging them $3,600 to avoid surgery, $3,600 to get back to work and be able to work throughout the day, $3,600 to not have to worry about losing their job, $3,600 to be able to get back on the floor to play with their kids. That's when you can actually start charging what chiropractic is worth, when you meet values and the price of exchange for what they're getting back is what they'll pay for. They're not going to pay for pain reduction. They're not going to pay for the amount of visits they're getting. They're going to pay for their values that they're getting back out of that care plan. And that is how you're going to increase your case fees for chiropractic, increase your LTV, increase your value of your care, which is what it's worth. We all know, every chiropractor on here knows that chiropractic care is worth $10,000 to avoid all those things for a patient. We all know that, right? Well, why don't we charge it? This is why. It's the communication style, and I'll get a little bit more into that later in a later webinar date. So things to think about. Great way to increase your LTV in your chiropractic care plan. So the second strategy is going to be a metabolic strategy. So would you agree that 80% of your patients that walk through your door are metabolically challenged? Okay, unless you're in a community that's highly has a high rate of health. But according to the World Health Organization, 83% of people have a compromised metabolic health system. So we got to think about that. So that means that 83% of your people that come into your practice need metabolic health. So the 3 T's, thoughts, traumas, toxins, has been around so long in the chiropractic profession. Why aren't we addressing the toxins portion? A lot of us do. A lot of us will give them free information and free seminars, and we're spending time, we're sitting down with them, and we're helping them find better diets and lifestyle, but there's no structure around it. We're just spending our time for free, letting our patients get the right information because we care about them, right? But when we look at it from an LTV standpoint, lifetime value, how many times that patient's going to buy from us over a period of time, there's going to be an average period of time that that patient stays with you. We have to maximize that time. Obviously, we're going to sell them, give them things that they need because they're either going to get it somewhere else, doing Jenny Craig or packaged foods or processed foods or some soup diet online, and they're failing miserably to lose weight or to heal their gut or decrease inflammation. So we have to maximize our opportunity, right? That patient comes in the door, we have more opportunity to add just chiropractic. We have so much opportunity to add other services to their care. So, because every patient that walks through your door probably has weight issues, has gut health issues, has inflammatory issues. When we look at the environment today, subluxation today is much different than subluxation 20 years ago. And I can say that because I've been in chiropractic for around 20 years. Because of the environmental challenges, from stress to being on their phones a lot, to high demands in their job, to the foods, the processed foods, the on-the-go eating, subluxation is not fixed as easily today. So we have to control the environment for our patients, and it's worth money, right? So it's worth value. We have to charge for it. So to be able to add a service line onto your chiropractic patients that are going to offer them weight loss or offer them gut health or offer them a program that's going to decrease inflammation to control that environment to make sure that we can correct their spine long term. So again, another strategy is to start thinking about to increase the LTV, because if a patient comes in, pays you $1,800 for chiropractic, if you fixed your chiropractic care plan, you should be charging at least $2,500 for 36 visits minimally. So they pay $2,500, they re-sign for $2,000, let's say, then we added a gut health program for $2,000. They've already spent $6,500 with you within the first 6 to 9 months, and then you can start putting them on maintenance or maintenance care for 12 months. Now your LTV of your chiropractic patient is up around $10,000, and now that changes the game. Then you just selling them an $1,800 care plan and hoping for the best at the end, because a lot of times what we're seeing is we're not looking past that initial chiropractic care plan, which means that we're losing opportunity because they're leaving your office and going to spend that money elsewhere. It's not like we're being greedy. It's not like we're trying to take all the money they have. They're going to spend the money somewhere. It might as well be in an office that they trust and they like, and you service them fully the entire time that they're in your office. So when we look at that, there we go. So we have a chiropractic program of care example. So I just use this as an example. It's just as a visual. It's very easy. So some people are like, well, how do I do that? How do I add that to their care plan? Well, it's just another line item. So you have your chiropractic program of care. You got $2,800, and then you added we call our gut health program Trust Your Gut. We added a $2,000 line item. Now you have a $4,800 care plan where the patient starts. They're starting chiropractic. They understand how gut health controls inflammation, that controls the ability for you to be able to correct their spine properly, and they pay you $4,800 for a care plan. So now what we've done, we've added a line item to the chiropractic care plan, and we've instantly doubled our LTV almost immediately in the initial care plan processing and charging. So when we start stacking these patients on top of each other over time, the LTV is raising, you're stacking profits on top of each other, and then we look up, a year down the road and we look at the numbers. So let's look at the numbers. So let's say we have 300 active patients or inactive patients, right? It's a conservative number. And let's say we can add a metabolic program to 30 of those patients, 10%. A very, very reasonable number. And you can be able to do this every single month. When we look at it, if we add it to 30 patients at $1,797, I just did an average between the gut health and the weight loss program. We're looking at $53,910 of gross revenue, okay? So let's take the hard cost out. It's important. So we take the hard cost out at $400 per patient. So the kit that they get is $400, and it's $12,000 hard cost. How much did it cost you for marketing? It cost you $0, because you already have these patients in your database, so you didn't have to spend any money on marketing. Then we take that $12,000, you subtract that from the $53,910, and then you have $41,910 of net profit from that first, we called it an activation campaign, which I'll go over later, on marketing your active patients and marketing your inactive patients. You can do that a few times throughout the year and get the same number. But I'm being very conservative with these numbers. So then you look at the new patients that are coming in every single month. So you have 30 new chiropractic patients per month. Let's say you get 9 patients you add on a metabolic program. That's very conservative. You could easily do 50 to 60% of those new patients, because again, numbers are on your side. 83% of people are metabolically challenged. So let's say 9 patients at $1,797, you have $16,173 gross profit per month. That's reoccurring every single month. You take the hard cost out, and then you end up with a $12,573 reoccurring revenue net profit off of just your new patients if you're doing 30 patients, 30 new chiropractic patients a month. A lot of people do a lot more than that, so you just adjust the numbers accordingly. They're just using these numbers as simple numbers. So when we have that net profit from the activation campaign at $41,910, and then we reoccur 12 times of $12,573, you have $192,786 over a year's time of net profit just by adding a simple line item and tweaking your conversation in your day one and day two of money. And you do that over 10 years, you have $2.1 million. Guys, one service line, that's your retirement over 10 years. Just adding this simple line item when 83% of your patients probably need it. It's the easiest add-on to your patient care. We teach over 2,000 doctors across the country on how to do this. This changes the game, guys. This drives your LTV up, okay, easily. It's an easy LTV increaser. And then we're looking at a great revenue source where people are already looking for it and need it. So something to think about. These are things to think about. Are we maximizing the opportunity for our patients? So why niches? You know, why are we adding different niches to our practice? I got some notes here. I'm going to make sure I don't miss anything. So when we look at niches do a couple things. And when I say niches, I'll go over here in a minute. Niches increase your reach, okay? Create a diversified number of patients walking in your door. They increase your LTV because niche services are worth more than chiropractic. But when we look at the percentages, chiropractic is only reaching 10 to 13% of the population. And that's been like that since I started chiropractic school in 2003. So it's been there for 20 some years of the same number. And why is that? I always bang my head up against the wall, ask myself, why are we only seeing 10 to 13% of the population? Our profession is phenomenal. The philosophy is phenomenal. Why aren't we reaching more people? So when we look at niches, it gives you a phenomenal opportunity in your practice, because when we niche out, we're actually increasing our reach from 10 to 13% to 85 to 90%, right? So we're looking at the ability to reach people that would have never came into chiropractic practice. So through neuropathy or knee pain or body contouring or weight loss or gut health or fibromyalgia or decompression or shoulder or plantar fasciitis, ED, regenerative medicine, neurofeedback. These are all niches. It's a $1 trillion industry that we're leaving on the table. I did all the research, and if we add all those up, it's a $1 trillion industry that we're leaving on the table. So if we can reach more people that have needs like neuropathy or knee pain or weight loss or gut health or shoulder pain or plantar fasciitis, if we can speak to those individual patients, bring them into the office and give them a solution, a protocol, which we help with. You can make your own protocols for these as well, and help them with these protocols for these niches and then teach them chiropractic on the back end of the niche. We have just gave ourselves an opportunity to sell a program and process to help these patients between $5,000 and $7,000, and then they're still learning chiropractic on the back end. They can become a full-blown chiropractic patient as well, combining those services together, and you can re-sign them for chiropractic to be a chiropractic patient for life. What we just did is we just added services, niche services to our practice, and we're increasing our reach, and we have patients that come in that would never came in before. Because when we look at the medical model, and I'm not here to talk about the medical model, but the only thing the medical model did right is they're fitting a patient that has a specific problem into a specific type of doctor. Okay, they've niched out. Pulmonologists, oncologists, podiatrists, neurologists, they've niched out. So that patient knows exactly where to go because they have that issue and they go to that exact same doctor. With chiropractic, and this is really where I feel that why we can't grow the chiropractic message out in our communities is we're fitting a person into a philosophy. The best philosophy on earth, chiropractic philosophy, is phenomenal, but patients don't relate to a philosophy when they have a specific problem. Does that make sense? Let me re-say that. Patients don't relate to a philosophy when they have a specific problem. So it's marketing 101. I don't know if any of you follow Dan Kennedy, but I follow Dan Kennedy a lot. Dan Kennedy says that if you can speak to a specific problem and niche down your marketing to a specific niche, the droves will come into your business. Multiple people, hundreds of thousands of people react to those messages. So that's all we're doing is we're niching out, we're marketing a niche, we have a solution for the niche, and we teach them chiropractic on the back end. So we sell them what they want, okay? Find a solution for what they really want, teach them what they really need, chiropractic, and they become a chiropractic long term. And your LTV is 3 to 4 times or 4 to 5 times more, worth more than a chiropractic care plan, but I'll go over that here in a little bit. So you're able to increase your LTV, your new patients, your profit centers, and still teaching chiropractic. So let's look at an example case fee for a niche. So when we look at a neuropathy care plan, okay, and the reason why I have this up just is a visual. So neuropathy is normally going to sell for a $7,000 care plan. Same thing with knee pain, plantar fasciitis, shoulder pain, those type of niches. The pain niches sell very similar, give or take $1,000 or $2,000. So neuropathy care plan sells for $7,000. We're adding another light item of $2,500. Let's say that is full-blown chiropractic. It could be decompression. It could be gut health. You know, about 75% of neuropathy patients have gut health issues. We can combine those services together. Now that care plan is worth $9,500, and that $9,500 is sold to the customer, and they have a solution to their niche. They learn chiropractic, and they're getting help with their secondary condition as well. And the more severe a niche is, the easier it is to sell the program of care. A neuropathy care plan or a knee pain care plan or a shoulder pain care plan, a frozen shoulders, way easier to sell than a chiropractic care plan. I've done thousands of them, but when we look at that, we just created an initial LTV of a patient that's worth more than the entire track of a chiropractic LTV patient in one transaction. So with this care plan, we can have an LTV of initially $9,500. Then they could re-sign for chiropractic. They can be on chiropractic for maintenance care for whatever 2 years or a lifetime. So now we have an LTV of a chiropractic patient of 10 to 15, or for a neuropathy patient of $10 to $15,000 for a lifetime value. So I hope that's making sense. So again, going back to lifetime value, how much did your patients spend over a period of time, and how can we present opportunities to your patients to make sure we're capitalizing on how much we can help them? Okay, obviously things they need help with, and what is that message that's going to get us there? A niche service leading with niches gets us a better opportunity up front, and then still they learn chiropractic on the back end, and they can still be a chiropractic long term. So we're literally taking a niche and then taking the chiropractic LTV and plugging it in on the back end of that niche LTV and combining both LTVs, which is going to impact your practice dramatically. So let me go over some numbers examples. So when we look at a pain niche, we have $7,000 for that case fee. Let's just use round numbers for that. And we have total gross revenue off 10 patient starts. So 10 patient starts is pretty average. We have clients that are doing 30 to 40 starts on pain niches a month. That's $70,000 gross revenue. If we have a $1,300 hard cost, which means that what the materials cost, because you're going to want to set these protocols up where they're treating themselves at home with infrared devices, stimulation devices, nutrition. So your hard cost for each patient is $1,300. So total hard cost is $13,000. Let's say it took you $3,000 to gain those new patients to come in your office. Okay, it's pretty reasonable. 3,000 ended up 10 patients coming in your office. So that's $16,000 total expenses. So if you subtract $70,000 from $16,000 hard cost, that's $53,000 net profit each month if you close 10 patients a month. That's $648,400 over a year's time, okay? Over a year's time of net profit just by adding one pain niche to your office. So if we look at that, over 10 years, it's over $6 million, obviously, right? So now we have, when we look at that, we're looking at the total revenue opportunity of 648,000 and then 194,000 for metabolic. So just those two strategies, adding one pain niche and closing 10 patients at $7,000, adding metabolic to your chiropractic, we've literally made a huge impact on our practice each year, over $800,000, $900,000 each year by just doing that. And that's probably, some of you on here may not be able to process that because, man, I see 1,000 patients a week and only collect $60,000 a month. It's all about the strategy on how you set these things up. And with the cool thing about the pain niches is you're seeing them once a week in the office, okay? And they're coming in once a week in the office. They're doing the majority of the care at home. They're going through an online curriculum online. We obviously have all these components. You can make them yourself. But we're only seeing once a week. And that once a week visit, they do get chiropractic. But if you want to do a full-blown chiropractic care plan on top of that neuropathy or knee pain care plan, they can come in 3 times a week, obviously for more cost, right? So that's how you can make a huge impact on your practice, is by adding simple strategies, adding metabolic, adding pain niches. Because when we start doing that, our reach is going to increase dramatically. Still learning chiropractic, guys. I know some of you on here probably are very principled chiropractors, but if you want to keep banging your head up against the wall and changing that 10 to 13%, you can keep doing that, or you can go with the flow, go with what they want, and then teach them chiropractic on the back end. So why automated niches? I'm going to be going over a lot of this topic on April 30th, but I want to touch on it because I think it's very important to understand, after you go over those last 2 strategies, the metabolic strategy and the pain niche strategy, is we need to make sure that we have systems and processes, our clinical operating systems, work for us, where a lot of times, a lot of doctors have everything land on their lap and it's all around them, all the treatments, all the time, all the commitment. There's ways that you can automate your seminar. You can do group seminars to promote the niches, so we can automate that through video processes. And we have a video production team that makes all of our content. You can do your own. There's a lot of resources out there, which I'll go over more on April 30th. But you can automate your day 1 education and automate your day 2 education. That entire process, 90% of what's said in that process is very repetitive. We're saying the same things over and over again. So all we're doing is we're automating the repetitiveness. We're still having a human touch with it in the process through communication, which we teach you. And then we automate, once they become a patient, the online education. So we have a software, you enroll the patient into that software. It teaches them their niche the entire time they're in that under care. It gives them reminders and recipes of the day, as they have to check off tasks that they each do each day. If they don't check it off, it gives them reminders. So we have this whole entire system working for us 24/7. So through the online education, they're getting those things while you sleep, while you're on vacation, while you're at home. Day 1, day 2, if you're automating the seminar day 1, day 2, staff can run that entire process, so it exits the doctor out of it. And then we're shifting 90% of that care at home through devices like infrared devices, stimulation devices, nutrition, and then, so they're only coming in once a week. So that way, right in the middle of the doctor right there is on the beach. He has a lot more freedom. He has a lot more freedom of choice. So if he wants to spend more time with his family, if he wants to spend more time on vacation, if he wants to spend more time putting more effort into operations and systems in this business, or pouring back into his staff with his time versus doing all the treatments and everything. So automation is important. It's been around a long time in a lot of businesses, but it's landed in chiropractic 8 years ago when we founded Blueprint to Practice Automation. And I'll go over a lot of this on April 30th, so do not miss April 30th talk. So maximizing marketing. Let's shift gears a little bit. So now that we've went over a couple different simple concepts of how to drive our lifetime value of our customer by maximizing our chiropractic care plans around value-based communication, around adding metabolic to chiropractic, increasing our revenue dramatically, and increasing the LTV of that patient, and then leading with the message to niches, driving high premium case fee opportunities in your practice, where you're going to be able to sell a higher case fee and then teach them chiropractic on the back end. Those are things that are going to drive our LTV. Now that we understand how to drive our LTV, We got to make sure that we're driving patients into that high LTV system. So we have to maximize our marketing. There's a lot of things that we need to think about how to maximize our marketing. So when we look at that, the first thing we want to look at is our LTV again. So coming back, why do we keep talking about LTV? Because it's literally the lifeline of your business, long-term and short-term. So if we have I'm just going to use round numbers. So if we have a chiropractic LTV of, let's say, $8,000, it could be more, it could be 10. If you're adding metabolic to it, it could be 10. What are we willing to pay for that lead? So the acquisition cost of that lead, what are we willing to pay to gain a new customer? So a lot of times, I hear doctors like, man, I'm paying like $400 per acquisition. I'm like, well, that's really good if your LTV is high. And they're like, well, what's the LTV? And I start explaining what LTV is. If you have an LTV of $8,000, how much would you willing to pay for that? Would you pay $4,000? Pay $1,000? Would you pay $5,000 for that $8,000? Knowing that if your average LTV is that, what are you willing to pay to gain that customer? So and think through that, because your money, your cash flow is what I was trying to think of. Your cash flow has to be healthy to be able to pay $4,000 for an acquisition. So you don't want to deplete your cash flow. But I'm just trying to make a point. What are we willing to pay to gain a patient that's worth $8,000? What are we willing to pay on the pain niche that's worth $10,000 to $15,000 LTV? So when we look at that, we just got to understand a few things. We got to understand where our marketing is coming from. What's our most profitable channels? So is it social media? Is it local communities, engagement, referrals? Is it TV? Is it radio? Do we understand our phone conversions? How many people are calling from our marketing? How many people are we scheduling from our phones? It should be around 80% of that phone scheduling. And then how many people are showing up to day one? Should be 75%. How many people showing up to day two, which would be about 95%, 98%. And then how many people are we converting in that day two into care? It should be about 75%. So when we know those numbers, we know that we have those numbers dialed in, and we're continually training on those numbers, and we're perfecting that process. We know that we're willing to push people into that system because we know our conversions are right, they're on point, and we know that we're going to gain on an average an $8,000 out of that chiropractic patient. But you got to think about that. Let's back up it a little bit. If we're only charging $1,800 for chiropractic and we're not doing anything after that, we got to be careful. We can't spend a ton of money for an $1,800 patient that's only going to buy once and leave after 2 months, or buy 6 visits and leave after 6 visits and only come back 3 or 4 times over the year. You got to be careful. That's why it's important to drive that LTV up. So start thinking about those things. So now that we've understand our LTV, now that we understand why our conversions and tracking conversions is important, we understand how much we're willing to spend for that acquisition cost for that new patient, we got to look at how we can maximize our marketing when we look at direct response marketing and branding. And what do I mean by direct response? What that means is it could be free direct response marketing, sweat equity. You're out there doing screenings, you're out there doing health talks, or you could be doing paid marketing such as social media, TV, radio, mailers. And we're paying a service to get new patients. But the important thing to think about is when we're doing direct response marketing, regardless of what it is, every one of your patients in today's age is landing on your brand. Patients these days are so much smarter than they were 20 years ago. I'm not saying their intelligence is smarter, they're just more resourceful. They're looking you up, they're going to your website, they're going to your social media pages, they're Googling you, they're seeing if you have any YouTube videos up to see if you actually know what you're talking about. These are things that new patients are doing. So sometimes we want to blame the leads. I've heard this multiple times. I'm getting a lot of bad leads. Are we? Because I went to your brand, and your brand, I couldn't find your website. You're marketing neuropathy, and neuropathy is not even on your website. I'm not finding any content out there around neuropathy. So number one, if it's on your website, that's a great start. But but every person that lands on your brand, so sometimes leads are landing on a weak brand, which creates that lead to be a weak lead. Okay, so there's an indirect reason why those leads are quote unquote weak. So when we look at branding, we have our own marketing, we have our owned marketing, which is a brand, and our earned marketing, which is branding. So owned marketing is like your colors, your logos, your imagery, your website, your social media, your email, your creatives, your vlogs, video blogs, your blogs, your swag. Those are things that represent your brand. Okay, those are things that people can go find. If you have different font, different colors, different creative looks, it doesn't look uniform. It's all over the place. All over the place brands create confused patients. Confused patients can't make decisions. Okay, so something to think about. When we look at earned marketing is like sponsorships and charities you're part of, partnerships, testimonials you have online, your media, your videos. Those are earned marketing. They call them earned because you're working towards those and building those resources. Both of those put together, branding is just your brand equity. So over time, you keep building your brand equity. And the stronger your brand gets, that brand actually starts shifting and working for you when it gets so much momentum. So I'll go over one of my favorite earned marketing strategies that I used to do in my practice a lot, and we teach a lot of our clients it, is partnerships. So one of the things that I used to do is I used to go find for a partnership in our community, I used to go find health-related businesses like smoothie shops or juice stops or olive oil store, things like that that are directly related to health. So what I would do is I would go to the owner and say, hey, Mr. Smith, I'm Dr. Gumm from ABC Chiropractic. I would love to partner with you, and here's what I suggest. Obviously, you go in there and meet them and get to know them, and maybe go back the next time and pitch them the second time. This is what I would like to do for you. What I would like to do for you is I would like to buy 100 of your customers a free smoothie, as long as we exchange, if I can do a health talk that's related to how we can make them healthier in their community, so I can do a health talk to those people. So we can market it. I can market it on my page. You can market it on your page. And here's the catch. You're going to be the hero because all I'm doing is paying the bill. It's going to be coming from you. So the free product is going to be coming from you, not me. So I'm just paying the bill. You just tell me how much it is at the end. I'll pay the bill, and I'll do my health talk in front of those in front of your customers. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll put your stuff in my practice so they can come to your office and buy stuff. So it's a great partnership. So what I just did is I bought 100 leads that I can talk to for about $7. A smoothie is about $7 for $7 per lead. So going back, $7 per lead. If I go back to my LTV, my lifetime value, if my lifetime value is $10,000 or per chiropractic, I know for a fact that it's going to be in exchange. I could literally get one patient and pay $7 times 100, $700. I mean, $8,000 for $700. I could do that all day. It's like an ATM machine. How many times are you willing to put $1 in and get 2 out? Okay. I would do it as many ones as I could to put into a process to get $1 in, $2 out. Well, in that case, you're $1 in, I don't know, I'm bad at math, but $10 out. So when we look at that, it's a good way to partner with people in your community and get cheap cost per lead and a great partnership, a great kickoff to a relationship long-term. Get 4 or 5 of those and do that once a year, and you have a really good opportunity to get cheap leads, cheap acquisition costs for your new patients, and great partnerships in your community. So I just thought I would share that because I really like that strategy under earned marketing, which is part of your branding. So now that we have our understanding of how to drive our LTV up through chiropractic and adding niches, we understand conversions and understand that we need to understand our conversion rates and making sure they're operating perfectly, so we know that our LTV and what we're willing to pay for that LTV. that lifetime value of that patient, what we're willing to pay for that customer. Now that we're going to get more calls that we have increased our brand in our practice, and we have great branding, and our leads are landing on a strong brand. More people are going to start calling your office. So we have to make sure, one of the things that we teach at Blueprint to Practice Automation, other than all the protocols and niches that we teach our customers, is we have to own our phones. So our phones are a gold mine to our practice. If you're not answering the phones properly, if you're answering too many questions on the phones, or going over pricing on the phones, if you're answering what's in the program on the phone, if you're answering what type of technique the doctor does on the phone, you're giving too much information away, and the patient gets all the information they want. They never come back in because they usually answer all the questions. You drive the patient to the consult to get their questions answered. So I just noted a few of the bullet points. We have all these tools you see on the right, CEO tools. These are all CEO tools that we provide our customers for them to train around. So you can make your own CEO tool and just list out all the things they need to be training on to make sure that that process is efficient. You can use it as a reference point. You can use it as a training tool for your staff, any new hires. It's important to train on the phones at least once a week or twice a month. So some very simple things to implement into your phones, and I'm sure a lot of you do great on phones, and this is elementary, but I've found that the more elementary things that it is, the less people are doing them. So one of the things we want to make sure is we want to have high energy on the phones, okay? We want to make sure that's a great experience. This is where the customer experience starts, the patient experience starts. So get their name and number before you even start conversation, and their email if you can, because you want to be able to put them into a lead nurturing campaign if they don't schedule, or you want to communicate with them if they do schedule. So get their name, number, and email, and then show empathy. Someone calls your office and says they have neuropathy or knee pain and they're just doing terrible, and they go into their story. Be empathetic, but still have energy and get them into that consult. Have all the right answers, and make it easy for that potential patient to schedule. Don't make it difficult. Don't put them on hold for 2 minutes. Don't be monotone. Don't be rude and have 5 other things going on at once. Zone in, because this is the first opportunity for that patient to experience your office, and it's going back to LTV. It's worth $8,000 to $10,000. If it's a pain itch, it's worth $10,000 to $15,000. So every time you pick up that phone for a lead, you got to think. What I did in my office, I literally had a piece of paper in front of that person that dealt with the phones. I had 8 to 15K, because I want them to understand the ramifications of what they're doing. And I also had another piece of paper that said, this life can be saved. Because every time that they answer that phone, this life can be saved, and it's worth this much money for our business. So I did that, just a reminder, because we get in our day-to-day and we get used to doing things, and we get monotone and so forth. So some things to think about. So train on the phones every single week. And the way to do that to start is start recording your calls. If you're not recording your calls or tracking your calls, you're missing a big opportunity. So if you're doing 5 different marketing avenues, they're calling from your website, they're calling from a radio and a TV, they're calling from mailers, you want to have call tracking numbers on those for those specific individual marketing avenues. Once you do that, you're able to understand exactly where those leads are coming from. And actually, a lot of call tracking numbers will actually whisper when you answer the phone. It says neuropathy radio, so you know exactly where it's coming from, or chiropractic social media. So call tracking is important. And then when you record those calls, you're using those as training avenues for your staff. Every single week, you pull up some calls, you train on it, you correct some, and you just get used to that. Once you get used to that, your staff gets used to that, and they start improving on their phone skills. So another thing we want to do is, once we get those people on the phone, we want to have nurturing campaigns for them to be able to go in. So this is how we're going to maximize our marketing. Remember, maximizing our marketing, we're driving people into that high LTV system, compounding profits in our practice. So if they don't schedule, we need to have, and this is kind of built off of softwares out there. When we have columns, we can drag leads into, go high level, constant contact. A lot of the email systems have this type of setup. But if they don't schedule, we want to have a column to drag them into, and then they're in an evergreen campaign until they schedule. If they do schedule, we want to put them into a scheduled category. So we scheduled pre-day one. When we drag them into that pre-day one, it should send them a text message. It should send them an email or a text message with a video in that text message, and that video should explain what they should expect on their first visit. Okay, so your customers right now, when they schedule, they're thinking, what am I going to have to do in this visit? Am I going to have to do a bunch of weird stuff? Am I going to like this person? Are these people nice? I have to take my clothes off. There's a lot of things that patients think, right? But we want to diminish those thoughts before they get there in that video. So they're like, oh, wow, they were really nice. Hey, guy was really nice. I can't wait to meet this person. So it increases your show rate to day one. Once you're done with day one, you want to drag them into the post day one. It sends them a text thanking them for trusting you guys as they practice in their health. So once they get done with day one and before they come in for day two, you want to drag them into pre-day two column. In that pre-day two column, then send them another text reminder, say, hey, your visit's tomorrow, and you can call them and confirm them, and then drag them in there, and they get both. Drag them in there, they get the text, they get the video of expectations of day two. So what we're doing is now they've heard us on the phones, they've heard us before day one, they've heard us before day two. When I say heard us, heard a voice from one of our teammates, their team members. This increases know, like, and trust before you even get to day two. They've heard you 3 times, and by then, day two's a formality if you did day one right. And by then, they've heard your voice and heard different things from your office multiple times, and they trust you by now. So instead of coming in cold turkey day one and then coming back for day two, they're only hearing your voice a couple times. But through day one, day two, and the videos and the phones, you're hearing it 5 times. So once they become a patient, you put them in the deal closed. Deal closed, they don't get any message from you, or if they don't close, put them in the deal not closed, and that should be a bunch of testimonials where they get one a day for a week and then twice a week for a lifetime, which I'll get into testimonials here in a minute. And I got to speed it up here because I'm running a little behind, and I want to respect your guys' time. So maximizing marketing through reactivation and activation campaigns. So when we look at activation campaigns are the ability to market to your active patient list and your inactive patient list, trying to add additional services to their lifetime value. So it may be weight loss, it may be gut health, it may be knee pain, it may be body contouring. Everyone on your list, active list, there's a right time for that customer to buy other services. As long as you stay in front of them with other services that you're offering in your practice, and maybe do an activation campaign once a month where you're marketing a different service that you're adding. Again, if you're just offering chiropractic, you don't have that opportunity to market a niche to them: knee pain, weight loss, sleep, energy, stress, neuropathy. So doing an activation campaign and having an offer for them to come in and learn about that niche, you're going to gain more revenue. You're going to drive your LTV up again, another opportunity to drive your LTV up in your profit. And you'll start getting referrals as well because you're offering more services. So then we have our reactivation campaigns. And these are campaigns that have the ability to recycle your leads that you're getting from your marketing. Let's say you went out and did a screening, you had 100 contacts, you scheduled 50 people, but there's other 50 people that didn't schedule. We can send offers. It's usually like a 3-day text campaign or a voice drop. You can do that through Go High Level. We actually build these campaigns for our customers at Blueprint Practice Automation so they can use them. But have a 3-day text campaign with a voice drop that has an offer for them to come in and about whatever service you've been marketing to them. So a lot of times people don't schedule because it's timing or they just weren't ready at that time. So we have to stay in front of them. It's been shown that studies have showed you have to touch a lead 10 to 15 times before they even make a decision or act. So through follow-up calls 3 to 4 times, text messages, reactivation campaigns, have them in a lead nurturing funnel, eventually they will decide to come in over time. So my thing is they have to, what was it, the die, buy, or unsubscribe. So that's kind of my motto when I deal with leads. So now that they've come into the office, we want to make sure our day one is on point. So another way to maximize our marketing is making sure our day one is perfect. This is where patient experience, this is where they buy you, is on day one. Phones, day one, day two should be a formality. So improve your registration process. Don't have your paperwork be hard for them to do. These are just a few points out of this CEO tool that we have. We have probably 30 things on there. Here's some things that stick out to me though. Have online registration, know their name. When they walk in the door, know their name, have it on the board, walk around the desk, shake their hand, sit knee to knee. You know, this is your opportunity to make a wow experience. And then have a intentional office tour before they go back to the consultation room. So when I say intentional office tour, one of my favorite things I did was I had a testimonial wall. So I had a bunch of different testimonials on the wall, and there was a chiropractic section, neuropathy section, knee, weight loss, gut health. And if my staff saw that Mary had neuropathy in both feet and she's had it for X amount of years and experiencing these symptoms, we typically would have a testimonial on the wall that kind of mimicked that patient. So we walk up to the testimonial wall and say, Mary, you remind me of Steve. Steve had bilateral neuropathy in both feet and hands. Let's having trouble walking. We're able to help him dramatically. So hopefully we can do the same thing for you. And then as you walk them through, so what I just did is I connected her with someone that already got great results for mimicking exactly what she's experiencing. So I've increased trust again in that process. So when you're walking them through the office, look at the things in your office and make sure that how can I either increase perceived value in whatever they're seeing in that office tour, or how can I diminish something that they may be thinking? So if you have a cervical traction device on your wall, well, that looks like a hanging contraption. I had them in my office, and we always had to explain what it was. This gently stretches your spine, taking pressure off the nerves to decrease pain. I mean, it's very something similar. Because the way if I looked at it, and I didn't know it, that looks like a 1930s hanging device on my wall, and they're torturing people in here. So we've got to make sure that we're diminishing any thoughts that they have. So just some things to think about as you're doing an intentional office tour. Add value, decrease things they're thinking. Testimonial wall is the number one. So fundamentals of day one communication. So as you're in day one communicating with your patient, make sure you're doing a few things, okay? So when you look at their paperwork before you go in their office, highlight some things on their paper that stick out to you. When you walk in, they're gonna see that. They're gonna actually see, hey, Dr. Smith highlighted some things. They read my chart. They know what's going on. And then as you're going through that day one, make sure you're setting expectations for what's going to happen in that visit. And again, I'm just talking high level on these things. So we have an entire CEO tool on this. And build rapport as you're doing that. Because once you get into that day one process, you're going to start asking them questions. Remember when I talked about how to sell higher case fees for chiropractic? We have to figure out their motivating factors, their why. What do they want out of the protocol? What do they want out of the service? So if it's a knee pain patient and that knee pain patient comes in, they have their unique reason of why they're there. They want to get out of pain, but they're scared of things, they're concerned with things. So you have to ask questions and drill down. You know, ask them, okay, I see that you're on medications. How do you feel about being on medications? I hate medications. They make me dizzy. Well, what happens if they make you dizzy at work? Well, I operate machinery and I can't operate machinery when I'm dizzy. It's putting a burden on my career. What happens if you lose career? Are you the only breadwinner in the house? Yes, I'm the only breadwinner. I have a stay-at-home wife. Well, what happens if you lose your job? Well, I can't send my daughter to college. These are the conversations you need to be having in day one, because those are the things they're going to buy back from you. They're going to buy back getting off the medications, avoiding surgery, getting back to work, not being dizzy, not worrying about their job, not worrying about their kids' college. they're willing to pay whatever they can to get their values back, but they won't pay you much to get out of pain. They have to understand why they're there. And sometimes patients don't even understand until you start talking about it because they've never talked about it out loud. So use strategic questions to reveal deeper rooted issues. Acknowledge symptoms, but don't focus on OPQRST. I know what you learned in chiropractic school. 90% is around their why and their values. 10% is around their symptoms. And perform an intentional exam and communicate findings. So if you're doing an exam, tell them you're concerned about it. I'm concerned about this finding. We'll talk about it later. And then confirm that there's anyone else that needs to come for day 2 on the decision maker. Have their spouse come to their day 2. Do not do day 2 without their spouse, unless they're a truck driver. If they can't make it, do a Zoom in day 2 and connect with them. So establish expectations for day 2. So when you're walking them up to the front desk, hand off the information you've talked about to the front desk. You got to do a handoff. Hand off to the front desk that they agree that their spouse is going to be there. Because if you don't hand it off, guess what? They got a new relationship. Nothing's handed off. They can actually start off fresh. But if you hand it off, they can't start off fresh. They've committed to you and them, and you communicated them in front of them to the front desk of what you talked about. So day 2, let's get through this. So some of the things you need to make sure on day 2 is get rid of any uncertainties by sending that text message out the day before day 2 with the video, expectations of what they're going to be doing on that visit. Because when you do that, when they get there, they're more relaxed, they trust you more, they know exactly what's going to happen. They know there's not going to be any surprises. And then when you get into day 2, know their name when they come in the office. Have tea, coffee, water, have things clean, have things presentable in your office, have it feel like they're at home, have good smells, scents, don't have perfume on or cologne, and don't have your office an area that they feel relaxed and there's no stress. So once you start get day 2, they're going to have their spouse. So make sure you're connecting with their spouse, recap what you learned about them in day 1, because the spouse needs to get up to speed. And as you recap, they're going to understand the ramifications of how this condition is affecting their spouse, and then engage that spouse. Ask them questions. Did you know this? What do you feel about that? Get them engaged before you jump into the day 2 process. So here's some goals for day 2. Review their why, review their values, review their goals, get their spouse up to speed. And here are a couple questions that you need to ask to handle objections up front. I always ask, how committed are you from a 0 to 10? And they're like, well, I'm an 8. Anything under a 10, I'm asking questions why, and I'm figuring out why, and I'm handling those objections before I get to the cost of the program. And then I go over a question on what type of patient they are. I say we accept 2 types of patients, and the third type we don't accept. Type 1 patient is they're all in, they value their health, they value their longevity of their health, they value what their health does and how it affects their family and their overall life and their job and their career. They're going to take action. They know what they want to get better, and they'll start care, and they're going to start it the day we go over it. Type 2 is exactly the same type as type 1, but they're going to fall off the wagon a little bit. They're going to make some mistakes, but that's okay. Our team is there to help you get through it. Type 3 patient is going to sit across the desk from me and say they want to think about it, they want a quick fix, they don't value their health, they don't really see how their health makes an impact on their life, their family's life, and their longevity. And they're just going to leave, and they're going to say they think about it. I never hear from them again. And so I ask, what type of patient are you? And no one wants to be type 3, right? So they're going to say type 1 or type 2. What I just did, I handled all objections before I even get to the care plan. So I get down to the care plan, I go over exam findings, and you want to use exam findings as a threshold. So just like you're going over phases of degeneration in chiropractic, I don't want to see anyone in any phases because that's part of the degenerative process. And I pull up their x-rays, I say, what do you see? I see phase 3. Well, phase 3, what's that mean? And they read what phase 3 means. So I'm creating a threshold, and you can do the same thing with nerve degeneration, knee degeneration, spinal degeneration, get health score that we do. You're using that exam finding as a threshold to say, hey, you're at a point where I'm concerned. So that creates urgency. in the situation. And right before you go over the cost and the care plan, you want to say, as long as I can fit finances into your lifestyle today, are you willing to, is there any reason why we can't start care today? I handled every single objection before I got to that care plan. So when I get to that care plan, I focus on two things. I focus on their values and their why. For me to get you off medications, avoiding surgery, back to work normally, not worrying about your career, not worrying about losing your job, I need to see you for the next 90 days, and that's going to be $7,000. So what I'm doing is I'm selling their values back for the cost, which is a lot easier, and I'm giving them a time frame. I'm not selling what they get in the program, the class 4 laser, the DRX 9000, and this is what this technology does. They don't give a crap about that. They care if you can get their values back and what it's going to cost and how much time it's going to take. So make it a big deal if they start care. Get testimonials in your office. If we look at lifetime value, we have an opportunity value in our patients as well. Get multiple testimonials from your patients, even if it's after week 1 and another one at 30 days, another one 60 days, another one 90. Accumulate as many testimonials as you can, because you can leverage those in your marketing. And it's easy. Have a phone, have an iPad, have your questions ready, and then go through it and get their testimonials. Get a picture with the whiteboard as well and put them on the testimonial wall. Referrals, the lowest LTV patient you'll ever get. You don't have any acquisition cost. Referrals are key. So make sure you set up an environment to create referrals in your practice. And it's easy. You can actually get a lot of feedback from your patients using an NPS score. It gives you, ask them how likely are they to refer to your practice. Anyone on a low score you want to address and get better. Anyone in middle, how can we get better to get you referring? And anyone that says they can refer an 8 or above, we see, hey, who do you have to refer? So here's some topics we're going to be going over in the month of May. KPI reporting, CEO scorecard, marketing accountability, ROI analyzer, and how we should be doing our daily stand-up and our weekly level-up meetings, leveraging our numbers to gain more profit in our practice. And then I'll be going over a lot on April 30th, how to automate your seminar, your day 1, your day 2, your patient education, and your staff training. And some other things you can be doing is automating your text and reviews to increase your referrals and your testimonials. But on April 30th, I'm going to be diving in clinical operating systems on how to automate all the niches where you don't have to do any of the work and let technology work for you. I look forward to seeing you guys on April 30th, where I deep dive more into driving your LTV and your profit.